In this short video, I will talk you through one of the most famous and influential environmental law cases in Australian history. It was also a landmark in Australian constitutional law, known as the Tasmanian Dam case. In summary, through this case, the Commonwealth Government succeeded in stopping a large hydroelectric dam proposed to be constructed in southwest Tasmania. The seven judges of the High Court, split 4-3, decided that the Commonwealth had power under Section 5129 of the Australian Constitution, known as the External Affairs Power, to stop the dam based on Australia's international obligations under the World Heritage Convention. This case is significant from political and economic aspects, which I will touch on in giving the context, but my focus is on explaining the legal decision, which was whether the Commonwealth laws were within constitutional power. I'll walk you through the facts and the outcome. The background facts are in 1978, the Tasmanian Hydroelectric Commission, owned by the Tasmanian government, proposed to construct the Franklin Dam on the Gordon River, which would have flooded the Franklin River. In 1982, the Franklin River was declared a World Heritage Site. The fact that the Tasmanian government wanted to build a dam in a World Heritage Site created a lot of controversy across Australia. And in the middle of this, in 1982, the Tasmanian government passed laws, the Gordon River Hydroelectric Power Development Act, Tasmania 1982, allowing the dam to proceed, and the Tasmanian Hydroelectric Commission commenced preliminary works for the construction of the dam. Bob Hawke's Labor government then passed a bill, the World Heritage Properties Conservation Act 1983 Commonwealth, which, in conjunction with the National Parks and Wildlife Conservation Act 1975 Commonwealth, enabled them to prohibit clearing, excavation and other activities within the Tasmanian Wilderness World Heritage Area. In May 1983, both governments put their case to the High Court of Australia. The Commonwealth Government and environmental groups opposed the construction of the dam. The Tasmanian Government and business interests supported the proposal for the dam and challenged the federal government's actions. The Tasmanian Government argued that the Commonwealth Government did not have power under the Constitution to stop the dam. Specifically, the Tasmanian Government argued that the Commonwealth Government was acting outside its constitutional powers, with environment being one of the residual powers held by the states. Tasmania also argued that the Commonwealth had unjustly deprived Tasmania of property through passing the World Heritage Act, contravening Section 5131 of the Constitution. Let's now look at some of the questions and the outcomes. The legal issue was the constitutional validity of the Commonwealth World Heritage Act, the division of powers between state and federal levels of government, and the relevance of parts of Section 51. So first, Section 109 of the Constitution provides that a Commonwealth law on the same topic as a state law will override that state law to the extent of any inconsistency. So in this case meant that the Federal Act, the Commonwealth Act, would override the earlier Tasmanian law. The High Court then had to determine whether the Commonwealth's legislation was validly supported. The first question was whether the Commonwealth could rely on the external affairs power in the Constitution because its Act implemented a treaty which protects World Heritage property. The court had to decide whether the external affairs power could apply to domestic matters such as this building of a dam in Australia. The court also had to decide whether its powers in Section 5120 to make laws about trading corporations could be used to prohibit the Hydroelectric Commission from undertaking work. In the judgment, Mason J. said that Section 5129, the external affairs power, was intended to be ambiguous or unclear and capable of expansion. The outcome was that the external affairs power meant that the Commonwealth could legislate in any area of an international treaty that the government had signed and Parliament had legislated on, in effect giving more power to the Commonwealth. More specifically, while the decision to make the Franklin River World Heritage was not binding, the ratification of the convention could be seen as acceptance of obligations under it with the Commonwealth law. The Hydroelectric Commission was involved in commercial activities, so therefore came under the definition of trading corporation, and Tasmania had no proprietary rights over the dam, so had not been deprived of any property. So, in a 4-3 majority, it was held that the federal government had legitimately prevented construction of the dam and that the World Heritage Act was authorised under the External Affairs Power and the provision banning the construction of dams was valid. The practical effect of the decision was to stop the construction of the Franklin Dam, which now sat within a World Heritage Site. The consequence was the case ended the Hydroelectric Commission's plans to construct more hydroelectric dams in Tasmania. Why is this case significant? Well, following the decision, the legal debate continued over the extent of the External Affairs Power. It is now established that the Australian Government has the power to enact legislation that is considered appropriate and adapted to fulfil Australia's international legal obligations. It is also argued that large parts of Australia's environmental laws depend for their constitutional validity on the decision in the Tasmanian Dams case. Thanks for listening.